All right.
Both
Should
are. And I'm trying
Okay, you ready? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay.
Yeah, fine. Do I just do this?
Okay. Hello. So I think
I'm
I
going
should.
to pause the recording for a second, okay?
Yes. 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 Okay. Yes. I could actually.
You didn't have to hear me blow my nose, so okay. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. My video is making me really funny, but it's okay. Okay. Okay, so we are here with Rabbi Yirmiyahu Kaganov, and discussing different areas in Psak Halakha. And so today the question that I'd like to speak with the Rav is regarding Shas Dechak, Makom Mitzvah, Makom Hefsed, and B'diavad and in Halacha, and there's many instances where these sort of situations make a difference in terms of relying on different opinions or kulas or chumras, and the general question I've been wondering for a while is, what are the definitions of these areas? How would we know? And are they the same sort of thing in different words, or are they different concepts?
So thank you for the question. The answer is it depends. Okay, but I'm going to be more specific than that. Let's start with the differences between B'diavad and Shas Hatzchak, because there's a clear difference between there. Okay. Lichatchila means that, at this point, I could do something or I could not do it, and which is, should I do it or can I do it? And Lichatchila tells me that I'm not supposed to do X, right? Or if it's Lichatchila, I can do it, right? If it's Mutter B'diavad, then I'm not supposed to do it. And I'll give you a very simple situation that we are all familiar with. You have a non-kosher kli, okay, or you have a milchik kli, and a fleshik item was cooked with the milchik kli, okay, and it's right now, and the kli hasn't been used for 24 hours. It would be called in a okay, either a non-kosher kli or a milchik kli, and it hasn't been used 24 hours. Now, I am not allowed to use a non-kosher kli and cook with it. Okay, that is a prohibition midrabanan. Okay, Midrash Torah, there's no problem with it. Once 24 hours have passed, it became Nosen Talmud Kam, it's mutter. Chazal prohibited me from using a kli, right, that was used for non-kosher ever, okay, without koshering it, okay, or, right. So that is a clear case where lechatchila, I am not permitted to use this kli. Okay, now, b'diavad, if I did use this kli, okay, since 24 hours have passed since it was last used, the food is permitted. Okay, so that's clearly b'diavad. Now, it doesn't have to be a shasa talk at all, right? B'diavad simply means that the situation's happened already. Okay, I goofed. Okay, all right, I used a milchik kli to cook something that's fleshik. Okay, I'm going to have a problem with the kli, right? But as far as the food goes, the food was cooked. The kli hasn't been used for 24 hours, okay? Or it was a treif kli, but it hasn't changed the kli. The kli's treif was always treif. It's still going to be treif. 24 hours have passed since that kli was used, and I cooked something in the kli. Right? It could be not. It doesn't have a shasa talk at all. It could be in the White House, okay, or in Buckingham Palace, okay, and they have plenty of kalim there. It could be the fanciest hotel where they've got a whole. They have plenty of new equipment to break out and use without any problem at all. There's no hefset on any level that you would consider a serious hefset. Okay, but the food's mutter. I don't have to bother with that. B'diavad means it's mutter. Okay, no shilas whatsoever. The food is okay.
I was thinking
I'm just not supposed to have made it.
just disambiguate. There's in popular nomenclature, people often refer to lechatchila as in the ideal situation, we do X or we don't do X. And then b'diavad, b'diavad means in a non-optimal situation. And
Okay, so that's all.
that is
That's also that can also fit this. Okay, let me tell you situations where that fits perfectly. Okay, I'm not going to go into too technicality here because I don't know how familiar our audiences with the details.
right.
But let's say I would tell you that when you're building an Eruv, I would tell you lechatchila, right? Build it in method X.
Mhm.
Okay, avoid any shilas on the Tziras HaPesach. Make the Tziras HaPesach in a way that nobody would question that this Tziras HaPesach is 100% good. Okay,
Right.
now when I look at your circumstances, which is everyone's, okay, there is no perfect situation in the world.
Okay.
Okay, in this situation, every situation,
Yeah.
every going to have play situations which I just can't do it.
Mhm.
Right, it's not doable, or either it is too expensive to do it such a way, or it cannot be done for practical situations reasons.
Mhm.
And the only serious alternative is not to put an Eruv up, which we're not considering right now. We want to have an Eruv up.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's a situation in which I might have told you up front, okay, what you would have said is, "L'chatchila, build the Eruv that is kosher according to everybody without any question,"
Right.
right? But b'diavad, okay, right now, life as it is, I'm going to tell you that this is okay to make this to use this or make the Tziras HaPesach in a way X,
Mhm.
and I posit that it's okay. Okay.
Okay.
Similarly, kashrus.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone is going to agree that we should, in our ideal world, okay, have things done in a way that everybody, under all opinions, would say that this is perfectly kosher without any shilas whatsoever. Okay,
Mhm.
but considerations are that it may be financially difficult, it may be impractical, right? You may be we're in a location in which it can't be done, right? It might be that it's too expensive to do it that way, right? And therefore, we live within a given world, okay, of, well, this is okay. This is kosher. I told you, to do it differently? Yes. But at this point, I'm telling you, this is, you can do this. This is okay. You can use this. Or this is an acceptable way of doing things. So you're right that, okay, but when we use the term b'diavad, okay, you're correct. At times, we're taking into consideration situations, and there could be cases in which a b'diavad is the same as a shas hatzad, but usually it isn't.
Mhm.
Usually, right, the word as it's meant, right, is at this point, right, what was made already, and that's why Eruvin, is usually not a b'diavad, but more of a shas hatzad.
Mhm.
Okay, whereas kashrus is more of a b'diavad. This product, this food item that you have in front of you, can be eaten.
Mhm.
In the case of an Eruv, b'diavad would mean the Eruv was constructed a certain way. I probably would have advised them not to have made it this way, but do it that way, which is a better way of doing it. But b'diavad, looking at the way the Eruv is right now, and our shaila is no longer, should I build the Eruv this way? The shaila is, may I carry using this Eruv?
Mhm.
Right? And I would tell you, yes, I may carry using this Eruv. Okay.
Mhm.
And that would be what we would call b'diavad. Okay. Now, Shas Hadchak is pushing the envelope a little further. Okay, Shas Hadchak would be that I might say I would have said even b'diavad is not good, right?
Mhm.
But because of the extenuation of the situation we're dealing with, I will say it's okay to do. So let's go back to the conversation we had not that long ago about Yoshua. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
and the different some of the arguments that were presented why Chodesh, right, may be permitted outside Eretz Yisrael. Okay, it's a very, very common shot. Okay, very
Mhm.
common situation. Okay, so you might have l'chadchila, I would say, maybe be machmer like all the shitas. Okay, B'diavad, I would say, well, here and there's a term that I think you can comfortably rely on, and if you have that food in front of you and that's what's available to you, you can use it. And Shas Hadchak would be, right, well, you're going to go hungry. Okay, nobody wants you to go hungry except on a fast day. But nobody wants you to go on hungry on a long-term circumstances. So B'Shas Hadchak, I'll tell you, yeah, you can rely on this. So now, those who said that, let's say, we could be makel completely, right, on Chodesh and Chutz La'aretz because it's always a Shas Hadchak.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, and therefore, right, and therefore, B'Shas Hadchak, you could rely on these opinions. And this is basically what the Gemara's wording is when the Gemara says Yesh Koach Reb Shimon L'Shlomo B'Shas Hadchak, right, or Yesh L'Smok Rabbi Eliezer B'Shas Hadchak. Okay, so there are those who are saying, okay, that the reason why you could be lenient is not because of minig, we talked about. Minig, no, the poskim or the majority of poskim is not the factor. The factor why you could be makel, right, is because it's a shas hadchak, and I'm just arguing a position here. And there are poskim who say this. It's a shas hadchak. We have millions of people, right, who are required to eat to keep alive, and the concept of having adequate nutrition, if they were makbid on Chodesh and Chutz La'aretz, if they followed the opinions that Chodesh and Chutz La'aretz is Asr min HaTorah, right, or is Asr, let's do that, we don't even know whether, right, is Asr, they would end up without having enough food to eat, because there's so many people and not enough food that meets the requirement that is readily available to them, or, because in locales there's not food available or whatever it might be. And okay, we can rely a Shas Hadchak, right, on the opinions that are lenient here, right? Even if they're not the major halakhic opinions we follow, we can follow them Shas Hadchak, right? And you can eat them, and you can eat the grain. Okay. Now, then we can get past Shas Hadchak. Okay, and Shas Hadchak is usually pretty close to as far as we put the envelope. But then we have cases where you could say, well, it's holy or pikuach nefesh or things like that. Now, pikuach nefesh, of course, we're matter everything with ultimate pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh, you could go out to your local supermarket and buy whatever is on the shelf, right, in the meat section, because it's pikuach nefesh. But let's pick Kitnius for Ashkenazim, okay, where in years where there was a famine, drought, Rabbanim would say this year there's no prohibition on using Kitnius, and they would just issue a blanket heter. Okay, and that was because they were simply concerned that there wasn't enough food around for all the frum Jews for the 8 days of Pesach within their financial needs. In other words, people were poor.
Okay,
and there wasn't much food out there.
Just that the prices on wheat or potatoes or whatever spiked, and so corn or beans,
right,
was just much cheaper. Interesting.
Right, or they were concerned that it would spike. Right, and now by allowing all the Kitnius products, okay, we'll keep the budget down, the cost down for people, and people really can't afford the difference, let's say. So that's a real, we're talking about a Shas Hadchak, okay? So now those are Shas Hadchak. I would not this year say that if if I was Mater B'diavad, it would be that you happen to have Kitnius in your house, I'll say, well, B'diavad is much you can go ahead and eat Kitnius. That would be B'diavad. Okay. Right? And a Shas Hadchak here is, right, we're concerned that, I'm not concerned so far people starving, but I am concerned about people having a lot of difficulty that is just much more than they can deal with. So I just want them to be fine. Okay. And that would be a Shas Hadchak situation. Okay. Now, we could have Makom Choli, okay, which is going to be very close to it. So now here we get into the question that you asked before is there a difference between Makom Choli and Shas Hadchak and mishum simchas yontif, and
Right. There's
um,
Hefsed. Yeah.
whatever Hefsed Meruba or Hefsed, right? This is a question that I'm constantly trying to find, and I don't. The answer is that the earlier poskim, let's say the Shulchan Aruch and the Nosei Kalim, right, the Shachtas, etc., they tend to follow the terminology as they found it in the earlier poskim. In other words, for if the Shubas Hadesha, let's say, had a Shaila case, right, and he said, well, you could be Saimach on this b'makom orchim, right?
Okay.
Because that was the way he asked the question. So that's what he was asked. So they will quote it. Well, it's mutter b'makom orchim. That's how they quote it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, if it's mutter b'makom orchim, then it's certainly mutter b'shas hatchak. Okay, right. But whatever, right? But they'll quote it as it is. Now, when you come to Paskin Shaila, okay, and they said it's mutter b'makom orchim, and my particular case is not exactly a Makom Orchim case, but it's a Shasat Kak or it's a Makom Holy case, I would say, well, for sure that's no different. It's mutter, right? There's no reason to make a difference, right? But they use the terminology. So the accepted practice of when you're quoting this as quoting the Shach or quoting the Chuvas Hadesh or quoting the Shulchan Aruch is to use the wording that they used, right? That's the accepted practice. Even though the person passing the Shaila realizes that all these situations are going to be treated the same. Okay. In other words, we're not going to make a difference between whatever the situation might be. So now there are some interesting cases here. One of them is, let's say, koshering meat, where two shiurim given. Okay. Right. It says that l'chadchila, you're supposed to soak the meat for half an hour and salt it for an hour. Okay. Now it says that when you're under extenuating circumstances, such as guests showed up at the door, right? You have the meat hasn't koshered yet, okay, and you want to serve the meat, right? Because you don't want them to sit for 2 hours till you can serve the meal to them. So it says you can just rinse the meat very, very well, okay, instead of soaking it for the half hour, and salt it for 18 minutes, and then rinse off the salt and cook it, which means that you could have the meal, start preparing the meal for them within a half hour when they've showed up at the door, instead of close to 2 hours before they showed up at the door,
right?
Which is definitely a nicer way of doing things for your guests. Or Erev Yontif or Erev Shabbos, okay, where we don't have to describe what a household is often like on an Erev Shabbos or an Erev Yontif, but to not have to spend so much time and have your meat ready earlier is definitely something that's going to help out in getting the household prepared better for Shabbos. And putting it in terms of other factors, we don't want people to live in stress. It's not good for their Shalom Bayis. It's not good for their Simchas Achayim. It's not good for their Simchas Yontif. It's not good for lots of other things. So we've decided to allow the situation and treat it as b'di'evid, right, rather than l'chatchila, because we want to treat the other things as l'chatchila. We want to treat people to enjoy Yontif, or for the kids not to feel that Yontif is a drag, etc. Okay, or we don't want people running too close into Shabbos. Okay, so we want them to, that's a much bigger video of it, is that things aren't finished and Shabbos is coming. Okay, so because of and whatever these factors are, okay, we're creating this decision that in this case, okay, b'di'evid or to be bachmer l'chadchila on one thing is going to create a much worse situation than something else, right? And therefore we change the names of the rules, and we treat this, this value is less important than another value. Okay. Now we do that often, because every time we say that pikuach nefesh pushes psychola terakula, or pick a better case, pikuach nefesh is deicha Shabbos, okay, which Shabbos is a very, very important value of ours. Okay. But we're telling you that pikuach nefesh is a value that's greater than the value of Shabbos.
Right.
Okay. We're telling you that as a halachic consideration, and you and I are thinking of it because the shiur has started. It was a halachic shiur. right?
Uh-huh.
So you and I are defining it halachically, right? But we could also define in terms of value system. Okay, in other words, in our value system, right, making a guest comfortable, or right, making people love Judaism, right, and saving lives, right, are very important values. Okay, that we place versus the other value, and we say, well, no, then the other value isn't so. The other point isn't is not as great, right? And in our relative value system, we place this over that. Okay, and just to give you a very parallel situation to this, right? To keep saying the truth.
Mhm.
In Torah, it's a strong value,
Mhm.
but it's not in the ultimate sense of the word an absolute value,
Okay.
because we have numerous situations in which the halacha says that you try not to say something that's overtly not true, but if need be, you'll completely say something that's untrue. But we would
Mhm.
say you lie, okay,
Right.
very ungracefully, right?
For the
Because
Archie
you might hurt,
Shalom, I guess. And
yeah, you'll hurt somebody's feelings,
mhm.
right? Or the achishalom, which means you'll create a machlokas. You'll get a wife angry at her husband if she finds out what actually happened. Okay, so instead, right, you tell her that her husband never said that,
Mhm.
right? Or so she thinks her husband may have said something, or what did Don say about that? Okay,
Right.
well, you know that Don said something that's going to get Donna very upset. So
Uh-huh.
you don't tell her what Don said, right?
Mhm.
You tell her that Don said something else, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever it might be. And that's clearly a situation where we're telling you one value is over the other value. So it's the same thing, right? Where we're treating this as a shasatach on our mitzvah of telling the truth,
Well,
right? So
okay.
what I'm doing, I'm pointing out that this value system that we have, including the chachila b'diavad shasatach, is really a general value system that we're using.
Right.
Okay. Now, your original question had been, is there a major difference between something that we're lenient because of holy, or lenient because it's Erev Shabbos, or lenient because guests are here?
Mhm.
Is there a tremendous difference between one and the other? The answer is no. There's
Okay.
not a tremendous difference. They're probably exactly the same.
Okay.
In other words, when we're reeling with that level, and if we're lenient in this one, we'll be lenient in that one. And the reason why the poskim, all the poskim just about, will quote it exactly the way it was said, is to simply be consistent
Mhm.
with what was originally written. We try to be consistent, just as you'll find, like Shulchan Aruch will often, there'll be a Chuvin Rishonim. The Shulchan Aruch will quote it, and he'll quote it with all the details of the way, or a lot of the details as the case was originally presented, even though many of them are not necessarily make a difference. We
Mhm.
know they don't make a difference, right? Or shouldn't make a difference. And the Shulchan Aruch will quote it that way, right? Because he said he wants to quote his authority. He wants to be truthful to a source,
Mhm.
right? But when you're positing a Shaila Halacha Maisa, it's not going to make any difference whether the original case said it was Mutter b'Makam Orachim, or was Mutter b'Makam Erev Shabbos, or was Makam, b'Makam Choli, or Makam
Mhm.
Mitzvah for that matter, right? We're going to treat them all the same in practice.
Right. And
Okay?
so and so I guess ultimately what it seems based on what you're saying is happening is that there's really different ideals that we have and and trade-offs, in the sense that while we have this ideal of having Shabbos, I guess we have an ideal of, not I I I mean, I guess the ideal, Hefsid Merubah is we have an ideal that people shouldn't be impoverished, I guess, and they'll have the money to spend, I guess, on other things other than mitzvot. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, is Shas Dichak? I mean, is there an inherent ideal of people um, just being happy and happy with their lives, and then that would explain the trade-off with Shas Dachak, that we just don't want, we don't want people stressed out, unnecessarily, or is that, or am I,
No,
am I hearing that?
that's not a bad thing to say at all. No, I think what you're saying has merit. I just want to think it through before I say a definitive yes about it. I could see that for sure. I could see that for sure. I'm just trying to think it through. Trying to think it through how that will work. But okay, but the concept of definitely there's definitely a factor there.
Yeah.
Definitely a factor that that we want people to enjoy keeping mitzvahs. Okay, and that's going to be a factor. No question, it's a factor.
And to what extent is this also a function of the psychology of the person asking the Shaila? Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
smiling because I have, okay, always. I say this always because I remember the Shiloh people pointing it out to me decades ago, and the fact that I knew other people didn't do that. To me, I'm a question. The same person can ask me what appears to two different people can ask me what appears to be the same Shiloh, and I will not treat it as the same Shiloh. I will not give the same answer. And the reason I won't give the same answer is that although I know the two people are faced with the same set of circumstances, they're not faced by the same circumstances. In other words, for one person, this is much more rattling than it is for the other. One person is a better coper than the other is, or this person has a lot more, on their plate than another person does. And I feel absolutely, this to me is an absolute, okay, that a shaila is asked and answered within its context. And you should always know context as much as you can. And, and that's why I feel a person should have a rov, right, that they go to, or a poster they go to who understands their particular context and their family context and paskins with that information involved, because that makes a vast difference. Okay, to me, for what one person might be just a simple b'diavad, for another person might be a real shasat chak, because they can't handle the situation, or it's so much more difficult for them, either because of family circumstances. Okay, so let's say a situation in which I know somebody is living within a non-pleasant marriage. Okay, and they so far have elected to remain in the unpleasant marriage, which is a horrible place to be. It's actually an absolute horror for somebody. But they've made a judgment call, or haven't made a decision yet, or they made a judgment call that because of their children, let's say, right, the situation that they're faced with right now is better for the children's development than the alternative is going to be, and therefore they stick it out. They want to stick it out. Okay.
Right.
I will treat and then something comes up in which, let's say, the extremely difficult husband is insisting that something be done a certain way, which is halakhically gray. Okay, or right, okay. But I will treat it for the wife as if that's what she has to do, because b'shas chak I would be lenient, and I consider her situation a shas chak, right?
Right. Okay.
Whereas if I know that the guy is a very reasonable guy, and this is just, Shiloh came up in a normal, typical kitchen, I would tell her to throw it out, right, or don't use it, right? Whereas in the previous situation, I would say it's okay, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay? And that's, the type of a situ, these things, and that's a clear instance where I'm taking into consideration the individual's circumstances. Okay. And so I can, let me talk about individual. You want me to hear individual cases, don't you?
Yeah,
As long,
yeah.
as long,
I think the more the
you
better,
know, as long,
because I think that the specific individual cases and specific, histories of post games saying things. I think they give information to chew on. That it gives it more color. I mean, it gives it, you, you
it's
know,
up.
it,
I'll give a
it
few
gives
examples.
it,
I'll give you a
yeah,
few
yeah.
examples, okay? But then these are things that I haven't thought these organized them well, so I'm just picking cases that as they come to mind right away about the situations that you just
Mhm.
described. Okay,
Yeah.
so situation one was a woman came to me. She really had an intolerable marriage.
Mhm.
Okay, she was hoping to hold on to the marriage until her youngest child would be married.
Okay.
Okay, which was a long time.
Okay.
It was a very long time. Okay. Now
Intolerable. I mean, I don't
the
necessarily mean to pry, but
the
intolerable
Shiloh,
because of a situation of abuse, or just a clash of personalities or priorities. I'm just wondering how intolerable the.
emotional, it was emotional
Okay.
abuse she was being
Yeah.
subjected to.
Hmm.
I would not physical abuse. I wouldn't,
Okay.
I would never ask somebody to stay within a relationship that's physical abuse. As a matter of fact, I have tried to get people out of relationships where there's physical abuse going on and not succeeded at times.
Hmm.
Okay, but eventually, that they will leave. But emotional abuse is pretty hard to go through, and I'm sure the guy will say it wasn't emotional abuse. He'll say that it was clash of personalities.
Okay.
But but so here was the Shiloh that she came to ask me about, and she didn't realize it was halachic Shiloh. She just thought it was advice that she was asking. Okay, and the question was that intimacy.
Okay.
Okay, she didn't want to be intimate with her husband anymore.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but what we would call mosalai at this point, which is understandable.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Okay.
and the question was, was she allowed to do that? Okay, and I told her, I'm not telling you you have to stay in the marriage. What I am telling you is that you can't play the game both ways. You can't say to him, I'm going to stay in the marriage, but I'm not going to allow you to be intimate with me.
Hmm.
Right? In other words, if you can't live with the fact that he's going to be intimate with you, right?
Uh-huh.
You can't say to him that I'm going to stay in this marriage and not allow you to be intimate.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to make a decision that either I'm going to terminate the marriage, right, or I'm going to and so I answered her Shiloh, right,
Hmm.
which was an advice, which was I said you can't you can decide you want to live in such a situation until your youngest is married. I'm not telling you whether it's right or wrong. I'm not a therapist to
Hmm.
work through the issues for you. I'm giving you an answer that you're telling me you want to do this, right? I'm not answering that advice that, right? I'm telling you psycholocha, right? But you can't play the game and not be intimate.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm just saying that this was a situation in which, right, we're talking about a shas hatzchak for sure for her.
Right.
And the question is, how far could she go with the shas hatzchak?
Right.
She's living with, she's willing to martyr herself personally because she feels that her children will be benefited better,
Hmm.
right? And that's what she was feeling. I'm not saying she was correct. Um, and um, and I told her you could do that, but there's still a reason, where you have to hold. That's one situation. Now let me give a completely different situation. Okay,
Hmm.
a in this particular, a woman's marriage is happy. The only problem is that the husband is definitely showing early signs of mental deterioration.
Oh,
Okay, and I
okay.
don't know more involved than that. I don't know details in terms of where it's what the medical diagnosis, if there is a medical diagnosis, exactly what, and usually there isn't. It's just notice of deterioration, but there are things that they do to see the extent of deterioration, etc. Okay, fine. Her question is that he sometimes, in the middle of saying brachos, skips words, right? Or, commonly when, should she say anything to him about it, right? And I advised her, unless most people do not want to be told, right? Even if they're aware that they're losing cognizance, they don't want to be reminded of it.
Mhm.
Okay. And he would rather, I mean, and based on the fact that she's asking the question, the probable answer is that he gets upset when
Mhm.
she says that to him.
Yeah.
But I told her she doesn't have to say anything to him about it. Not her responsibility to tell him about it. It's just, that will make the situation intolerable for everybody involved, right?
Right.
So you could say that that's a chasatrach that we're talking about here, okay? And then I pointed out when she sent me the shaila, I realized what she was. I said, "Well, if you're yotze with his kiddush and his havdalah,
Right.
right? You could have a very interesting problem here, or
I
hamotzi
mean,
for that.
well, if let's say he forgets Shem Hashem, or I guess one of the
He could forget a
necessary
lot of
components.
things,
Uh-huh.
right? It's not uncommon for people to forget Elokeinu melech haolam,
Uh-huh.
right? And when they're saying something like that, or entire sections of the bracha which are ma'akev the bracha. Now,
Mhm.
I could go through with her a little bit about what's ma'akev the bracha or not. I didn't. For the purpose, I just told her that for Havdalah is actually in ways easier than Kiddush, right? What I told her is that if he is skipping parts of the bracha that you can't be yotze with, your best bet is here. So she asked me about saying the bracha under her breath
Mhm.
while with him for Kiddush, for
Right.
Havdalah. But then she had a question, but he's very upset if she doesn't answer Amen at the end of the bracha. So she said
Right.
the bracha, right, and she can't say Amen to her own bracha, right? And then she asked me what happens if he he skipped parts of the bracha and she's in the same room while he's saying the bracha, right? So what should we do? So I said, listen, you can't say Amen to a bracha that's missing essential parts. But I said, you don't have to say Amen, right? You could talk about there's a state in the United States, the northeasternmost state, right? And it's Maine, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you just say Maine, right, we know you didn't answer to his bracha, right? It doesn't mean any difference for him, right? And he's going to think you answered to the bracha, so it won't be probably a friction issue, okay?
Okay.
And I so what with Kiddush and Havdalah, I
Well,
told her,
but
well,
then
Havdalah,
what if he notices? I mean, he could be so heartbroken.
if he noticed that she said this, he's not going to notice.
Well, okay.
If when listen to when people say brachas and see if you can tell whether they said amen or main when you're focusing on it.
Right.
And you discover that you notice it 95% of the time, you'll be able to pick
Uh-huh.
up on it. Certainly if he's not focusing on it at all.
Mhm.
Okay. He would notice
Okay.
if she said nothing when he finished his bracha.
Okay.
Right. Now here's where I told her Havdalah is easier than Kiddush.
Mhm.
Okay. And I gave her advice what to do for Kiddush. But I'll tell you what I told her to do. I told her for Havdalah, listen to his Havdalah. Okay. When he's finished, in your own mind, notice which parts he didn't do properly, if and what.
Mhm.
And when he's distracted or out of earshot, say those brachas for yourself, or be yotze those brachas yourself,
Mhm.
right? That he missed,
Okay.
right? Basically. Now, kiddush is harder to do that because you make kiddush, you sit down to the meal. Although you can do any time that night.
Mhm.
So, right. So he makes Havdalah, and then she goes to the kitchen to clean up from Shabbos, and he sits down, let's say, on the couch reading his newspaper. So at that point, she could discreetly, in most houses, right, he'd discreetly take out whatever she wants, a nair, if she wants, let's say, a cup, and make a bracha Havdalah on the cup, and he would notice the difference,
Mhm.
right? But Kiddush is harder to do that. You make Kiddush, then you go wash, right? And if he blew Kiddush, what's she supposed to be doing?
Mhm.
So I told her if he goes to shul or if he davens at home, whichever one he's doing, um, while he's davening, if make kiddush discreetly yourself,
Mhm.
right? And that way, right, you'll have been yotze kiddush already, and you don't have to worry about whether he was good or no good. And you can, he says the bracha properly, say on main. If he doesn't say the bracha properly, just say main, right?
Mhm.
Notice I had to be so careful to notice that you would see the difference, right? I'm just pointing out in
Yes.
terms of your question before.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because I'm also wondering at what point the potential for a person in that situation to realize what's going on and become uh, clinically depressed in a very serious way is something that starts to have halachic ramifications.
Okay. So that's all true, but let me point out to you two
Yeah.
things here. Okay.
Yeah.
Usually people are becoming, what's the word we're looking for? What was the word I used originally? I don't want to use the word senile. Oh, not, well,
Maybe impaired,
seriously
maybe.
impaired or right, are less noticeable of such things. And those people who are
Hmm.
losing whose judgment is becoming more and more impaired, okay,
Hmm.
do not become depressed because they don't notice it.
Okay.
They become less and less aware. Now, in other words, um, a person who is, in more and more losing touch with reality,
Hmm.
okay, doesn't become depressed as a result because they don't even know that they're becoming losing touch with reality.
Hmm.
They're in a new reality, and in the new reality, things are great.
Hmm. Oh.
As a close friend of mine said once, he went to visit his father, and he could see his father is very, very happy to see him,
Hmm.
but his father doesn't know what his name is anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, and his father doesn't even know how they're related, right? He just knows that he's very happy to see him, right? And but has no recollection anymore of who he is.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's he's not unhappy about the fact his father, the son, right? To the son, this is very painful, as you just
Hmm.
noted yourself, and you're not right. To the son, this is incredibly painful, right? You go from Israel to the United States, right, to spend some time with your father, and he doesn't know who you are, right? He recognizes you on some level because he's very happy to see you, right? But he doesn't remember your name, and he doesn't know who you are and how he's related to you, right? That's very hard, right? That's very painful,
Hmm.
right? But it's not painful for the father, right? The father's very happy to see him. And
Yeah.
in the father's current, so depression and this don't happen together. As a person becomes
Okay.
less in touch with reality, depression happens with a person whose mind is alert,
Right.
right? But has other things. Either the chemical makeup in the brain becomes much more difficult to balance,
Right.
okay, which is definitely a factor, or they're having tremendous difficulty dealing with their physical limitations,
Right.
right? And they can't make, and they can't make the right word for it. They can't accept it,
Hmm.
right? They can't accept that their physical limitations are such. That's where you run into cases of, depression. Now, depression is very common in older people,
Hmm.
right? But it's usually most common reason for depression is because what were previously relatively very minor psychological factors become much more significant. And just like the body becomes less able to treat it, to take care of its physical ailments, it becomes less capable of taking care of its emotional ailments.
Hmm.
So things that were person never realized before, suddenly because they just dealt with them without even paying attention to them, suddenly they become major factors,
Hmm.
right? And there's really no choice in those situations, as far as I can tell. And I'm not a physician or a certainly, but my impression is that the only way really to deal with that is to try to find the right antidepressants because
Uh-huh.
it's ultimately going to be handled on a chemical level. Whereas in a younger person, right, you could deal with this on a lot of other levels. A little bit of therapy or counseling might deal with the issue, right?
Hmm.
In an older person, the counseling may not do much good, but the medicine is much better, right? And that's true with a lot of things, not just So that's just background on. I don't know how we got into this digression, but it's factors of what's happening here. So
Right.
I doubt that this person who is losing touch with reality, right now, when they're in the beginning stages, okay, they're definitely don't want to be reminded about it because they're still very lucid, right? It's just that they have the beginning signs of it, and they're becoming very forgetful. Now, when you're at that stage, people don't want to be reminded about it. Okay, like I
Right.
am fully lucid, right? But the bottom line is that the senior, quote unquote, senior moments that happen, right, happen more frequently now, and that means that I just can't think of the word or the expression I'm looking for. I know there's an expression I want or a word I'm looking for. As a matter of fact, I gave a share last night, and I wrote something down here. Yeah, the word expression was sphere of influence.
Mhm.
And the reason was because I was thinking about how I'm going to give the share. And I do this sometimes when I'm thinking about the share that I'm planning to give, a term that I want to know, or a person I want to refer to, or a historical event I want to refer to, right? And I just can't remember it at the moment. And I'll jot it down when I do remember it so that it doesn't happen in the middle of the share
Mhm.
because it's very uncomfortable, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I would say that I'm far more lucid than Joe Biden, but that's not much of a compliment. So, but the point, but you understand my point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Just
So
in terms of causing emotional distress, I imagine each
yeah,
situation would have to be handled.
right. And also in
You
terms of giving a share, where people when you're giving a share to them, they don't understand as well. Not everybody's gone through senior years, right? And a lot of people think, oh, he's losing it. You're not losing it, right? Right?
Mhm.
Your mind isn't as fresh at 60 or 70 or 80 as it is at 40, right?
Mhm.
And and that at a certain your age, right? You begin to forget a word here or there. That doesn't mean you're losing it, right?
Mhm.
It just but for somebody giving a share, it's uncomfortable. So I
Mhm.
will sometimes just jot down if it's a term or an expression or a person, right, that I want
Mhm.
to remember that I'll jot it down. Right? That's just a method of dealing with it. Okay,
Okay.
so we got away from Shasat Clock, and I don't even remember at one point there was a discussion about Shasat Clock, but we got involved in some other issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
I
would you go ahead.
yeah. I'm sorry. I should let you finish. Yeah.
What was that? I don't know.
I just
I
have two more questions, and I'm not sure if we have time or not, but if we
I
don't,
don't
then
think we really do it. So why don't you express them
okay.
so I'll know them for what they are for next time?
Okay. All right. Well, there are sort of details, but I'll
Yeah.
email them to you, and we can go from there.
Okay. Okay. Very
All
good.
right.
We will
Okay.
continue on what's say today, right? We'll continue. I was just thinking, what day is today? No, it was just like,
Yom
like
Shani.
the three things that happen when you get older, right? The first thing is that you begin to forget things, right? The
Okay.
second thing is, the second thing
Well, I
is,
don't.
second, I can't remember. Oh, well, okay. You know, so that's the
Okay.
same thing here.
Okay.
Have a good
Okay.
one. I'm glad you
Yep.
guys had a good time in your travels northward, and I will speak to you on Thursday.
Yep. Speak to you. Okay.
Okay, no,
Thanks.
take care. It's
Bye-bye.
Thursday. Oh, one second. Let's think of Thursday. It's time disaster. It shouldn't make effect on my end anything. Will it affect
Okay.
you on your end? We'll finish
No.
davening later.
Um, Probably, but if we I should be fine. I should be fine
Okay.
because whatever. If we
Okay.
do it in the office, then I have to leave early. If we don't, then I don't. So
Okay. Very good.
okay.
Have a good
Okay.
one.
All right. Bye bye.
Speak to you Thursday. Take care.